Hi everyone. What an amazing week of reinvent. So many things happened. So many good announcements and so exciting and plenty of good talks. So today here I'm just trying to summarize the talk I gave about accelerating innovation with serverless at Lego.com. Now, this talk was given by myself and Danilo from AWS, and we both prepared a talk for last year's reInvent. And then Danilo delivered the talk because due to some reason I couldn't be there. Now that talk, at that time we focused more on the patterns that we use. Behind Lego.com. And as a continuation, this reinvent talk was about how we are moving fast further with serverless. So that's sort of the theme, and three particular areas I focused on were the technology, the team, and the business. So those three sort of acceleration points, if I may say. Um, so if you look at the technology and how we make use of technology, I focused on two things: step functions and event bridge. The reason I picked those technologies because when we started serverless, many things were new, and the team was just growing, and we had no clue. But we had to move fast. It was a fast-paced development because there was a requirement to finish something within a certain period. So it was like, so if you can imagine, like the Gordon Ramsay's, kitchen nightmare, go, go, go. So there was no time to experiment something or think something differently. Just go with the basic things that are familiar to you, like a lambda function, SQS, S3, these sort of things. So we use bunch of all these things to bring our services out there into production. Then when we had the sort of the pause or the time to reflect, we thought, okay, now is the time because the knowledge is there, the skills developed, is the time to experiment new things. So one of the first things that we looked at that time was how can we make the use of step functions a bit more. So that's how we got into step functions. And then these days it's so common that if there is a bit of a logic knitting around, then obviously step functions comes into the place. I mean, a few weeks ago, I was talking to a couple of engineers, and they wanted to discuss something about customer returns feature, which actually is live now in Lego.com. So they came with some idea that, okay, so here is a service that talks to that service, and we do some polling for status, and reach out to a third party to generate the labels and to put those in S3 and then combine generate URL and things like that. So I said, why don't you go away, think about it, and come back with a better approach? So after a while, they came back and they said, Sheen, this can be easily done with a step function, and they showed me a sort of a flow chart with all the sort of the state machine and all the things. And they said this is exactly what we need to do. So that's sort of the confidence. So that means that eliminated two or three other unnecessary services and focusing on this one particular service, and there we have the orchestration flow going on. So this is one example of how we now make use of. The other example is the recent the synchronous express state machines. So that's another example that already people are finding, engineers are finding use cases to use that. I mean, event bridge I don't need to talk too much because it's something I put in place, or I asked the team to adopt immediately, was announced, because when you have microservices, this is the service that you need to coordinate between microservices, as I always say, it's not something like the sort of domain specific microservices you see in the industry. No. So if you think customer as a microservice, in my view, that's not a microservice. I will break it down further, because for me, if customers personal address details and things needs to be updated, why do you need to update the work related stuff and things like that? So that's my way of, I mean, I talked enough and written enough about the way of how we can do smaller microservices. So that's the reason EventBridge is in place. I mean, if you're thinking of EventBridge, and if you listen to wonderful talks, there was a talk, a great talk about the different patterns about how we can have multiple accounts and multiple buses and things like that. But if you're starting, just don't get confused with all those things. Go with a simple one account, one service concept. Let the services talk to EventBridge. Sorry, one account and one event bus concept, and let the services talk the event bus, and then you can take it to the next level. And then when it comes to team level, obviously the team knowledge grows all the time. Okay, so the skills they develop, and so that means they can now do more things. So that means new features coming. So that means we are kind of moving towards setting up the feature squads and distributing the serverless knowledge across different teams, different squads, and every squad can do everything now, rather than just focusing everything in one particular serverless team. Now every team has serverless skills and things, so they are happy to do the backend services onto the front end UI and all sorts of things. So that kind of grows, and you need to basically enhance the team growth. I mean, there was a talk by Nika from Neuralink about the monolith to microservices kind of concept, where she touched upon one of my principles I talk about is to organically grow your serverless team. That really helps, if you're planning for long-term serverless development. That's something very useful. And then it comes to the business. Business is obviously, when you have a great time delivering more and more features, obviously the business benefits from gaining more and more value. That's exactly what I mean by how the serverless acceleration helps the business growth, because stakeholders now come to the team with confidence, asking for features like the feature I mentioned, the customer returns, just happened in a few weeks time. And there was another feature we talked about, the backend stock notification time, that happened in 2 or 3 sprints. So these are all things it can be delivered faster and faster, and so that is the other benefit of serverless for the entire thing. So technology growth, team growth, and of course the business growth. So that means as a business, we can now reach out to many customers around the world, and taking the Lego experience to many children and adults. So that's the whole purpose of we doing serverless, and we doing this sort of accelerated development. So that is the beauty. That's in a sense what I focused in my talk. So just as a summary, and I would encourage you to go and do serverless. Thank you so much. Thank you.